Liam and Yeremi from The Amazing Race, you two were eliminated on Wednesday's episode after what appeared to be a less than stellar rickshaw experience. It didn't seem like you had too much struggle on the challenges. Was this purely a navigation problem for you two, or what exactly happened?
It
So
was
yeah, I mean, it was definitely a issue with our rickshaw for sure. I would say the amount of time that we took up doing challenges versus the amount of time that we spent driving around aimlessly in an electric rickshaw going 4.5 miles per hour is probably like 4% to 96%. So we were in that rickshaw probably at least 4.5, 5 hours just driving around in circles, going to places, going across town, back, going everywhere but the temples and everywhere but where we needed to go. Right. So I mean, that was a huge issue in that leg, was that electric rickshaw, and we could not get out of it. We and pick a new one. We couldn't get out of it and go on foot, which would have been faster. And we had to sit there. We had to pretty much sit there and communicate with our driver, who barely spoke English, if she spoke English at all. I don't think she did. But Yeremi and I would literally stop and grab locals and have the locals explain to her what we're saying, translate, and then read it back to us. And they would tell us, hey, she knows exactly where she's going. She said she's gonna take you there right now. And then, we start driving, and then an hour and a half, 2 hours goes by, and we realize that we're going around in circles again. So then we have to stop, do it again. It's a rinse and repeat kind of thing. It was very frustrating for us, since we really had no real control over getting her to get us to where we need to go. But eventually we kind of just, realize that we can't really control it. So what we can control is how well we do at the roadblock and how well we do at the detours. So we did our very best at those times that were in our control, but whenever we were driving around, we decided not really to worry too much about it, since we couldn't do much about it.
yeah, it was definitely definitely a rickshaw problem from the
Yeah.
get-go. I mean,
Yeah.
you can only do so much with what you're given in a circumstance like that. And at one point, it really felt like we were just trapped. I mean,
Yeah.
you're trapped with this rickshaw. You're doing everything you can to try and explain where you're needing to go in a meticulous manner. You're getting people who know this area, who know where you're supposed to be going, who can give good directions in their language, and you're getting it to go through. Um, but yet the end result's not happening. You're not showing up where you need to go. Uh, you're not really moving. I mean, the traffic in Jaipur is already insane, and then this rickshaw is creating more traffic because they're going so slow. Um, so that was just such a huge issue. But like Liam was saying, I mean, the best things that we control is the way that we perform on those roadblocks and our level of composure. I mean, when you're in a situation like that where you feel like your back's up against the wall and you can't do anything, you're just like, you know what? Let's just focus on what we control, which is our attitude and the way that we perform in these challenges. So that's what we were
Yeah.
trying to do.
Yeah, and our rickshaw was going
Like,
so slow, like you could see Milena and Andrea pass us, and they were complaining about their rickshaw going slow. Okay, imagine how slow ours was going. Just
mhm.
saying.
What was it like just experiencing these different cultures in this way? Because you're sort of it's fascinating that you're there and you're seeing all these places, but you're rushed through it.
Yeah.
Can you take it all in? Because on one hand, you're sort of forced to go through it quickly, but on the other hand, you're doing things that, I mean, you're not
Yeah.
going to do this stuff on vacation.
No,
Mhm.
yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that when we're going through a lot of these different countries, you're right. We are in a race and we're doing a lot of stuff. So it's really hard to take in every little bit of the culture and the area that you're in. But I will say that in a place like India, it was really easy to take in everything that was happening because so much was happening around you. There were so many people, there's so much traffic, so many animals, there were so many things that were foreign for us to see, especially in our daily lives, that it was really striking as we were traveling through that country. I mean, it was really easy just to take a second, especially if you're in the rickshaw, and just look around and see just how different those communities live and thrive compared to how you do back in the place that you're from. But I mean, it was an incredible experience just getting to see the different cultures around the world and the countries that we went to. I mean, yeah.
I mean, it was like night and day versus being, at these other countries and then coming back to America. I mean, it's very different. It's very different. And it's what a wonderful, experience to just be able to go out there, see all these different cultures, see exactly what these countries have to offer. And another thing is whenever you're doing whenever say Yeremi was doing his roadblock, doing, the pots and the dancing and the whole thing, right? I was able to just stand by, root for him, and then whenever he, got it or didn't get it and went back to the line or whatever, I was just able to look around. I mean, you have downtime, you have a little bit of downtime here and there, and you really just use that time to soak all of it in as much as you can. So there's a little bit of time where you're able to do that, but majority of the race, you're kind of just like hammering it out. You're trying to get there, you're trying to finish it. So you're really missing out on a lot of the beauty.
You two had your emotional moments on camera. You were very vulnerable and forthcoming about your relationship. As much as you want to or are willing to discuss, what sort of caused that estrangement, and then what ultimately brought you back together that led to this audition? I mean, it's a pretty big step, and that's pretty cool that you guys decided to audition for the show together.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think that ultimately what led to just the increased strain on me and Liam's relationship, it definitely was rooted in our parents' divorce as we were young. I think when our parents initially got divorced, like Liam was probably like 6 and I think I was 7. And that divorce, it was a pretty nasty divorce, but it wasn't quick. It lasted from probably our ages of 6 to 12. So it was like a 6-year period of tugging and pulling and hearing negative things about one of the parents or both of them. And I think that left a lot of emotional scars on us as we continued to grow up, and ultimately we didn't have a relationship with our dad, or at least Liam and my older brother didn't have a relationship with our dad. And I think those emotional scars that were left from that divorce caused a lot of almost emotional, a lack of emotional knowledge for all of us. And it every single one of us took our own time to come to terms with our emotions, not only knowing that it's okay to express them, but being able to recognize, why do I act the way that I do, and ultimately where does it stem from in my life, or what experience have I gone through that has left that that emotional turmoil within me. And ultimately me and Liam were able to fix it by going through the casting process. It wasn't done before the casting process, it was actually done during it. When we started casting, we were still in an estranged spot. We had very little communication at that point. But I reached out to Liam and I was like, hey, is this something that you would like to do? I think it would be something that would be really great for us. And he was open hearted. He was very, very down to do it. He was like, I'm down. Let's try and do it. I'll do it with you. And I was like, awesome, let's get into it. And just from that moment on, I saw that Liam was willing to be vulnerable, to put himself out there for me. And that was a sign to me that he's willing to continue to try and remedy this relationship. And Liam, how did that go in the casting process?
Yeah, I mean, throughout the casting process, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work working through our problems with one another. I mean, I was finding things out about Yeremi and the experiences that he had throughout, his version of the divorce that I didn't know. I didn't know that about him. I mean, he was finding the same things out about me that, I experienced that he was unaware of as well. I mean, Yeremi left to the Marine Corps and I was still at home for maybe a year or two with my mom, who's just, her and I. For a couple of years. So, I mean, there's a good portion of our lives where it's just kind of like a gray area, for the both of us. We didn't see into each other's lives. He didn't see into my life. But going through the process, the casting process, we were able to discuss our feelings with one another, and I was able to tell Yeremi how I feel, what he does, how it makes me feel. He was able to tell me what I do and how it makes him feel, how it's perceived and the perception of everything. And then we're able to clarify a lot of that in saying, hey, this is not how I meant it to be perceived. It's not, there was no ill intention behind it, and I'm sorry you felt that way, but I'll fix it. I will change the way that I'm acting towards you, change the way that I say things, and I'll be more open, more vulnerable to you, to accepting you, your love, your compassion, and your feelings, and, the ideas and your inputs and things like that. So that was a huge hurdle for us to kind of overcome. But going through the process, we were able to set the groundwork, right? And then throughout the race, we were able to kind of put it to action. We were kind of, to test it, see how strong it really was. And it is actually, extremely strong. I mean, Yeremi and I are thriving right now.
And just as a final question, Phil teased at the beginning of the season that there would be no non-elimination legs, but he didn't specify that there would be no legs that went on a little bit longer. You two had a brush with elimination earlier, right? You were last to the pit stop on leg 3. How big of a scare was that? And what were you feeling when Phil was like, all right, here's the next clue, keep running?
Well, when we got to the pit stop, we were a little bit behind Victor and Jocelyn. So we saw them, but we were going through this entire, first part of this leg. We thought we were doing amazing, right? We were like, oh my God, we're doing so well. We're not messing up on anything. We were just kind of going straight through it. 2 checks on the vinyl thing, moving in one direction down the river in the floating market. We were like, we're doing awesome right now. No mishaps, no nothing. And then we get there, we see Victor and Jocelyn, and they had been consistently finishing at the top of the pack. I was like, oh my God, we're going to be like second or third. And then we get there and Phil's like, nope, goodbye. And then he's like, psych, keep running. And I was like, okay, sweet, cool. So like 30 something hours of no sleep, no food, and I get to keep racing twice in one day. Love that. So we just, kind of muscled through it. But I mean, we were very shocked, very, very shocked that we were in last place. So what you saw, our reactions are just, they're very genuine. We did not think that we would.
Yeah.
You didn't really have time then to feel sorry for yourself because you didn't even think you were in last place.
No, really. And then it was like, I don't know, another hour later and we're back in it. You just started racing.
To close things out now, just a final question. You did know you were in last place heading into this leg because you didn't see anyone else at that final roadblock. We saw you sort of lollygagging, take your time, having fun, really enjoying that experience. What was it like to then finally have your experience end?
Yeah. Well, we knew we were in last place. I mean, honestly, from the beginning of that leg to the end of that leg, if you even just look at it in the episode, you'll see it's in the morning and then the late afternoon, but only for our team. We knew we were last. We didn't see any other teams, for at least hours of that entire leg. So, we decided to just kind of take in the sights, enjoy our time there, take a step back and really look at where we are. So we were just going through it. I went through that roadblock. I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed just being there with my brother, being present in the situation.
Yeah, Denton. And towards the end, man, when you think you're going to be last, you start to do a lot of things that people in last place do. Like you start counting, like how many times have I seen another team in the last hour or two, right? And those numbers start to dwindle really quick. And like Liam said, as the sun started to go down, we definitely felt like it was our sun that was coming down on the race. But you know what? We tried to keep smiling through everything, through all the pain, dude. Liam went through his roadblock, he breezed through it. And when we finally got to that pit stop, Matt, and we knew that this was our time to go, we didn't feel any type of regrets. We were extremely in good spirits. I mean, just being able to go through that entire race, I think in that moment, a lot of what happened during the race flashed, almost before us as we were talking to Phil, and you really get to relive a lot of the things that you went through with your partner. And it just left me with such an, overwhelming, emotion of being so proud of just being able to do this with Liam, being able to, and being able to watch him do this. I mean, for the last 6 years, coming up to that race, me and Liam hadn't spent more than a couple days together. And then by that time, we had already spent almost 2 months together. So being able to see the way that Liam performed in this type of situation, the way that he communicated, the way he held himself together, his ideas, everything that was going on in his head. I mean, it was beautiful for me. And it was something that I will always remember that moment, standing on that mat and how it made me feel watching it.
Please don't be shy. Put some more. Put some more, bro. Put some more.
you said throw a little more on it.
Don't be shy,
it was
bro.
certainly fun to watch you two. I'm sure we'll see more of you in the future. You both look like maybe possible potential challengers. I'm just putting it out there.
Hey, you put it out
but-
there. I'll put it out there.
So manifest.
But best of luck to both of you in the future, and thanks for chatting with Gold Derby today.
Hey, thanks,
Thank
Dan. I
you,
appreciate
Denton.
you, man.
Appreciate it, brother.